Creating dozens of little Carmelo Anthonys is a growing problem, especially for Frisco schools. We're going to tell you about that. Inclusive left attacking the Giants players because they're so inclusive. And why you really need a Belgian Malinois, but you better be prepared if you're going to get one. We have the most amazing dog coming up later on. Welcome to the Jay Sheldon Show. It is Tuesday. Oh boy. Kind of a blurred day to getting started. We got a lot going on the show, and we welcome you in wherever you may be across the planet. Of course, most of our audience, even though I'm in Malaysia, a lot of our audience is in America. Wake up with us in the morning. Here it's nighttime. I've already been through Tuesday. I've already experienced it, so I can let you know that the day was pretty good. Weather was hot. It doesn't work that way, but it is amazing that while your day is just getting started, mine is just ending. Anyway, there you go. All right, let's get right onto it. Frisco schools are creating literally dozens of little Carmelo Anthonys by refusing to discipline black students. Oh, yeah. This is an amazing story for Austin Metcalf's sake, as well as Carmelo Anthony's. The disciplinary double standard has got to end, folks. It ain't working. And the reason we've got to end this is so another senseless murder doesn't happen. As you know, last week in Frisco, Texas, Carmelo Anthony's 19 years old, who was convicted of first-degree murder, was sentenced to 35 years in prison. No one in the jury, which was not all white, despite what you've been gaslit to believe, no one believed his claim of self-defense. Instead, they found Anthony provoked a confrontation with a student, Austin Metcalf, by going into the school's tent during a track meet, taunting the students there, refusing to leave despite repeated requests, and finally by plunging a knife into Austin's heart after he was nudged. It remains a likely never to be answered mystery exactly why Anthony did this, which might explain why so many people even entertained his claim of self-defense. It made no sense at the time. It still makes no sense. But the facts of the case show that Anthony apparently had no other reason to kill Metcalf rather than pure malice and pure aggression. You could go further, ask why Anthony harbored these violent impulses in the first place. He lived in Frisco, affluent, family-friendly suburb, good schools. He had two parents at home to take care of him, played sports, he had plenty of friends. He was a month away from graduating. He could have done anything. He literally had the world at his feet. So why did he throw it all away? In the absence of any evidence, it's anybody's guess. Maybe Anthony's supporters were right in assuming he was somehow bullied and held back by a racist system. Or maybe Anthony was radicalized by the toxic internet content that encouraged him to kill a white person. Or perhaps he was suffering from some unknown mental illness or emotional trauma. Most likely, though, perhaps Anthony was a willful, irresponsible young man who was never seriously disciplined or corrected, both at school and at home. Therefore, he felt entitled to hurt, even kill people, just because he felt like it. Teachers in the area there of North Texas said they've encountered a lot of students like Anthony. They terrorize their classes, they do very little work, continuously misbehave, and yet they are never, ever corrected or held back because they're Black. Like most districts in Texas, Frisco Independent School District has a two-tiered system of discipline. Literally, non-Black students who misbehave are given the consequences of detention, suspension, or mandatory time at the Discipline Alternative Education Program. Black students rarely, if ever, experience this. Instead, they might be sent to an admin for yet another friendly conversation. You know you shouldn't do that. Now, here's a little slap on the wrist. You go back to class. If this keeps happening, students' parents might start complaining that the teacher is racist, targeting their child unfairly. So, the teacher can either continue sending the student out in hopes that something is going to change, or she can simply let the kid play on his phone or on his laptop, let him take regular hour-long bathroom breaks, just simply so he doesn't disturb the rest of the class. That same approach applies to academic performance. If non-Black students refuse to do their work and receive a failing grade, the teacher is going to hear very little about it. Okay, you didn't do the work, you failed. If the same thing happens with a Black student, the teacher is going to have to present extensive documentation, interventions, calls home, opportunities for reassessment. And for peace of mind, a lot of teachers simply give all their students, especially Black students, a passing grade. And basically just makes their class just a total blow-off. That seems to work out in the short term for everybody. Creates significant problems over time, though. Significant problems. Those Black students who struggle in class in elementary school, when they get to high school, it just becomes worse. As a rule, they're never, ever held accountable because we make it too difficult to hold them accountable. It causes them to make very, very little progress over the years. Besides rendering them unfit for the whole big wide world outside of school, it also prevents them from truly integrating into the school community. A lot of the non-Black students learn to steer clear of their Black peers. They avoid talking to them. Leaves the Black students associating only with one another. And by the time they get to high school, a lot of the Black students form a group. They separate themselves from the rest of the student body, often having a reputation for being a rowdy, belligerent, uncooperative group. Admins usually just standing guard nearby when the group congregates in the halls and harass other kids. Teachers look the other way to mitigate their disruptions in class. A lot of times these students get encouraged to take part in sports. Coaches usually have a lot more latitude for disciplining their players. They can channel any excess energy towards something healthy and productive. But even so, Athletes can only do so much, and sometimes they can make the situation worse by giving an otherwise bad student some sense of entitlement for excelling at a sport. Now, this kind of hands off treatment of Black students at Frisco ISD played a huge part in leading students like Carmelo Anthony to stab Austin Metcalf. He appears to be among a lot of difficult Black students who never grew up, never took responsibility, developed empathy for his peers. His parents obviously deserve most of the blame for how their son turned out. Policies of Frisco ISD also likely played a very critical role in this. Anthony should not have been at that track meet, much less allowed to roam free with no supervision. He should have known that instigating fights and attacking students is wrong, it's unacceptable. He should have been held to the same standards as every other student, instead of being left to develop these homicidal delusions. It is very, very telling that no counselor, no teacher testified on Anthony's behalf at his trial. Not one. Which would very, very strongly indicate that he had an absolute long record of very dangerous misconduct. Now, look, it wasn't always this way. Back in 2020, an audit from the Texas Education Agency cited disproportionate discipline among Black students. Frisco changed his policy to let Black students basically off the hook. Hopefully this horrible crime is going to let Black students know and cause the district to end this absolute negligence, which it is. It wasn't enough that Carmelo Anthony enjoyed all the privileges of living in Frisco, which it is. He needed to live up to those privileges by becoming civilized, by becoming peaceful. He was not. For Metcalf's sake, as well as Anthony's, this disciplinary double standard, which they continue to this day, has got to end. So another senseless murder doesn't ever, ever happen again. Schools can be safe. Diverse communities like Frisco can certainly come together. They're not going to do it until we start treating every student, no matter what their skin color is. The melanin content of somebody's skin has no bearing on how these people are disciplined. Black and white and brown and every shade of the rainbow. Until we do that, Carmelo Anthonys are just going to continue to be born and continue to commit these horrific, horrific crimes. You see this one? The DOJ is back at it again. Hey, Maryland, good morning. Praise the Lord. Oh, my goodness. There are new charges from the DOJ against the Southern Poverty Law Center. I've been accused of using donations to fund hate groups, superseding indictment charges that, unbeknownst to donors, some of their donated money was used to fund the leaders and organizers of racist groups, which included the Ku Klux Klan, the Aryan Nations, and the National Alliance. Well, ain't that nice? Department of Justice beefed up their charges against Southern Poverty Law Center, alleging the leftist group used millions of dollars in donations to fund groups like the KKK in order to foment racist hatred. They were feeding the fire. They were pouring gas on an already burning fire, all as a means of keeping its purported mission of dismantling hate alive. Meanwhile, back here, they're pouring gas on the fire. Oh, we've got to do something. Look at how horrible this is. Put some more gas on. 11-count indictment back in April. And this week, they issued a superseding indictment, the grand jury, charged that unbeknownst to donors, their money was being given to these organizers of racist groups. They actively led donors to believe their donations would be used to dismantle violent extremist groups. In a rather diabolical sleight of hand, the SPLC hid from donors the fact that a portion of their donated money was being secretly used to support extremist groups and fund the violence, the racist, the extremist activities. They were helping to fund it. The same nature as activities about which the SPLC published articles on its websites. Many other forums trying to get donations, help us fight this racial hatred, the KKK, the National Alliance. And they're sending the money. Unbelievable. Other organizations targeted by the SPLC: Center for Family and Human Rights, American Family Association, Focus on the Family, the American College of Pediatricians, the Ruth Institute, the now defunct Catholic media outlet Church Militant, and Do No Harm, which opposes underage gender transitions. That group rather absurdly lists pro-parent organizations like Moms for Liberty as extremist anti-government groups. Very nice. Man. We are swimming in it, folks. We need some good news, and I got some. RFK Jr. and Rollins made a huge announcement recently about Ridgeland Farms and animal testing. You remember, if you've been keeping up with the news, the situation at Ridgeland Farms. 1,500 of the beagles there just last month were freed. About 500, sadly, remained locked up at this absolute nightmare, horrific place. A lot of people have expressed concern for the dogs that remained in the, I don't want to call it a shelter, because shelter implies they were giving them some help. They weren't. Well, anyway, some great news. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Department of Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins announced yesterday that those remaining 475 beagles will be removed from the facility, placed in a no-kill shelter, and prepared for adoption, and obviously the opportunity for a much, much brighter future. You remember when this story first broke, we played you the videos of these little beagle babies touching grass for the first time. They both thanked Donald Trump's daughter, Laura Trump, for her help. Has been very involved in the whole process. Rollins also basically said that Ridgeland Farms is on notice to follow through with giving up its breeding license by July. Why isn't it gone already? If it doesn't change the practices, the USDA will begin to terminate the process. Begin? How about just go in, grab their license, and rip it to pieces? How about that? For years, animal welfare activists, rightly so, accused Ridgeland Farms of inhumane practices and mistreating these beagles it breeds. They claimed they lived in awful conditions, no exercise, no socialization, no access to the outdoors, piles of waste everywhere, dogs forced to walk on floors essentially made of chicken wire. They even claimed that procedures like cherry eye surgery were performed on the dogs without veterinary oversight or any pain relief. Makes me cry. Now, even more exciting good news, they announced the Trump admin is launching a new National Institute of Health office, the Office of Research, Innovation, Validation, and Application, or REVA. It's going to speed up the transition away from animal testing towards modern human-based science. Now, this cut is a little bit long, but just so you hear the announcement, officially wanted to play it for you. So let me just make sure I've got my page up, and here we go.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS Secretary. I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. And Brooke and I want to start by thanking Laura Trump for her extraordinary leadership on this issue. Today, we're highlighting a major win for animal welfare. Ridgeland Farms, a dog breeding facility that supplied animals for research, will transfer its remaining 475 beagles to a large, cage-free, no-kill dog rescue. Most of those dogs will leave the facility immediately and begin the path toward adoption and permanent homes. We are committed to humane animal care and to replacing animal testing with effective alternatives wherever possible. And we're turning that commitment into lasting change. Today, we're also announcing the creation of OREVA, a new NIH office that will accelerate the development and use of humane-based research technologies and help reduce reliance on animal testing across all of NIH.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. This is such welcome news. As USDA had taken action to hold Ridgeland Farms accountable with federal requirements for humane animal care. We conducted inspections, we investigated conditions at the facility, and we put the operation on notice about inbound accountability. Prior to today's announcement, USDA informed the facility that if it fails to voluntarily cancel its Federal Animal Welfare Act Class A breeder license by July 1st, we will begin termination proceedings. And our work, in addition to groups similarly seeking accountability, has paid off. Accountability matters, animal welfare matters, and enforcement matters. Earlier this year, USDA published a request for information on standards of care for dogs covered under the Animal Welfare Act to ensure that we are aware of the best available science and the latest evidence in animal welfare. And we will continue to use every tool available to ensure that animals receive humane treatment in this country.
Look at that. Look at that fur baby. That is some good news. It's going on right now. Those doggies are being sent off to the no-kill shelter and no-cage shelter too, by the way. So they're going to have free run and a free ride. That is going to be great. Fantastic news. I love it. All right. Your cell phone and your mobile and internet access, what company do you use? Do you know when you pay your bill every month where your money goes? You know, all these companies donate a certain amount of their profits to different organizations, and a lot of them are pumping the money into lefty non-Christian believing groups, which is exactly why your wireless provider ought to be Patriot Mobile, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever, every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Oh, yeah. Folks, do not send your money every month off to some company that's helping to fund things that you don't believe in. Patriot Mobile, America's only Christian conservative mobile network, cares about the things you and I do, the right to life, First and Second Amendment. All those things that are so important to us are important to them. They are a fantastic company. I've worked with all the folks over there and setting up our promotional stuff here, and they have been absolutely wonderful. Patriot Mobile, go to patriotmobile.com/J, J-A-Y, get signed up. Talk to their customer service people. They're fantastic. They're U.S.-based. They speak your language, and they are there to put you in a plan that will save you money and fit in your budget. They're not there to upsell you. Use the link in our description down below, patriotmobile.com/J, J-A-Y, and if you get signed up using that link, you get your first month free. Your first month is on the house. It's on me if you use the link to sign up for Patriot Mobile. Thank you, Patriot Mobile. We appreciate you being here. All right. You know, one of the best parts, I think, about doing this podcast every day is I get to explore some of the material that is currently bouncing around the worldwide interwebs. On any given day, there's some weird stuff bouncing around the interwebs. It never stops. It can be amazing. It can be frightening. But occasionally I will read a story, which of course makes me kind of sit back and ponder the meaning of it. And man, I hit the jackpot. This article from the Detroit News made me do an absolute double take. And as you will see, even the title had me rather intrigued. The title was, "If Trump is a King, He's Terrible at It." Damn. The woman who penned this piece went right for the jugular. As protesters gather for No King's Gathering, rallies, and even a First Amendment concert in New York City on President Donald Trump's 80th birthday, I can't help but snicker. If Trump is acting like a king, he's doing a lousy job of it. That's from the article. Hot diggity. I really can't agree with that more. Democrats, others who oppose his policies, have absolutely had no issue challenging Trump and those policies right in court. I don't have the total figures because Trump still has a lot of his second term to go, but it seems like every couple of days he's having some sort of stupid, ridiculous, freaked up lawsuit filed against something his admin is trying to do. He tries to do something, they sue him. Sure doesn't seem like a king to me. Man with overwhelming authority, that would be king. Mostly because he's not. Well, the author continues, says, contrary to the smears in my inbox, I'm not such a rabid MAGA supporter that I can't see Trump's flaws. He's thin-skinned, dodges accountability, threatens and postures against media, allies, foes alike. He acts too quickly and sometimes crosses the line. But forcing the law aggressively is not tyranny. Trump sent troops to Washington, D.C. to restore order. Democrats called it overreach, but certainly seemed to help. No doubt about that. He threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act in Minnesota to quell riots against Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE agents. Then he didn't follow through. Masked agents could stand to be more civil, but a nation that refuses to enforce its immigration laws very quickly becomes a lawless nation. He's not a humble wallflower. He's a man of action who sometimes makes mistakes. But that's not the same as being a tyrannical dictator. That is the writer. Well, exactly. Donald Trump is someone who expects results much quicker than the federal government can provide them, or any government for that matter. He's used to moving fast, accomplishing his goals. That's how it was with him, especially when he was in business. It's not a character flaw. It's just a statement of fact that there are a lot of layers to go through with the largest government entity in the country, and every president, no matter who that's been, has run into exactly that problem. Trump learned during the first term what restrictions he was given. Seems to me in the second term he would rather do something, and then, if the court overturns it, fine. But he'd rather act first, get the job done, and look for permission later. Nothing wrong with that. Any president, all presidents, in my opinion, have at some point hit this stage. And finally, this from the writer of the article about kings. By invoking the language of America's founding, the No Kings movement cheapens what that struggle actually meant. America was born from years of real tyranny, paid for in blood by people who had none of those freedoms. Nailed it. I don't know these days how American history is being taught. I sure hope at least as decent as it was when I was in the classroom back in the day. What the founders went through and handed us as a gift of a republic, such as the United States of America, and it was incredible. And something, as we come up on this 250th anniversary of the nation declaring its independence, that we should all take a moment and treasure it. It should absolutely be treasured. I really, really do hope that as a nation, we do appreciate this more than we probably ever have in the past. With all that being said, I sure hope President Trump can keep up that hectic pace he's been known for, kick some ass in his 80th year and America's 250th, and keep on mocking the No Kings folks. Please, Mr. President, keep it up, because they have no sense of humor about it. And frankly, that makes us laugh. Oh my, oh my. Are you ready for this one? I don't think you are. You know how inclusive the left would like you to believe they are? Well, the inclusive left is attacking Giants players for expressing their Christian faith on Pride Night. Most leftists will believe that Christians should not be allowed to express their faith or to live it out in the public square. But a group of Christian baseball players demonstrated a lot of courage in the face of the LGBT mob. So naturally, that tolerant and inclusive left is completely attacking them for it. That incident came about last Friday. San Francisco Giants hosted their Pride Night, which commemorated the LGBT community. The night's antics included same-sex couples renewing their vows on the field in the presence of a drag queen. National anthem being sung by an LGBTQ-affirming non-denominational church, okay, and players donning rainbow-colored hats. Now, rather than bow before the left's odd little religious beliefs, whatever they may be, the Giants pitcher, Landon Rupp, J.T. Brubaker, Ryan Walker, Sam Henges, well, they took a rather different approach. Rupp, Brubaker, Walker inscribed variations of Genesis 9:12 through 16 on their LGBT-themed hats, which is a reference to the Bible verses in which God uses a rainbow to signify his covenant that he would never again destroy mankind by flooding the earth. Yes, that was the original symbolism of the rainbow. Meanwhile, Henges declined to wear a rainbow-colored hat altogether. He said, "I'm not putting that on my head." And when they pressed him on the matter, following the team's loss to Chicago Cubs, Rupp explained the meaning behind the verses and that it's just about God's covenant and a promise that he makes to us. He furthermore stood behind his Christian faith. His decision to write the verses on his hat encouraged those who were offended by his choice to simply read your Bible. "It's just something I believe in," he said, "and I stand firm in that. Thankfully, we live in a country where we have the freedom to believe what we want," Rupp said. "There is no hate at all. It's just what I stand for and what I believe in. I believe in God." Henges similarly defended his decision to forego the team's Pride commemoration, saying, "There wasn't any hatred behind it. It's just something that I felt like I was forced to support, and I don't morally support it." Well, the leftist media shills could not scramble fast enough. They wasted no time in letting it be known that their inclusion label doesn't apply to faithful Christians. Writer for the New York Times Sports Division, Grant Brisbee, penned an unhinged screed titled, "Giants pitchers' Bible verses on Pride Night caps show how they've missed the point." As if he were mimicking the Seinfeld episode where Kramer gets accosted for not wearing the ribbon. You remember that one? Grown man-child lecturing the Giants players by claiming their actions represented a tone-deaf response to what should have been a moment for community unity. He said they made the night about us versus them. That's the only thing they could see, whined Brisbee. Ended his temper tantrum with leftist, mindless, do better remark. No, I'll tell you what, pal. You do better and your little community. Because if you're going to be the open, welcoming group that you claim to be, then you should be welcoming everyone and accepting whatever their beliefs are. That's what open-mindedness is. That's what being inclusive is all about. You will notice these Christian ball players said, "There's no hate involved. We don't hate anybody here. We just have our own beliefs and we want to talk about that." Fine. Unbelievable. I can't deal with this crap anymore. Unbelievable. Oh, my. This is actually almost a similar story. I mean, you may have seen some of this before, but I kind of wrapped it all up here in one place. The counter programming that the liberal left did against the White House's UFC event, well, it didn't go all that well. In fact, it didn't go really well at all. Democrats throwing tantrums Sunday as the UFC championship went down at the White House. Everything you'd expect. It was loud. It was brimming over with patriotism. Every fight ended with a knockout, capped off with some absolutely amazing fireworks. As we said yesterday, Hillary was one of the tantrum throwers, whining about what this was doing to our house. A lot of people then reminded her of what she and her husband did to our house. And liberals did some measure, some, of counter-programming. They had a little bit of an event in New York City called Rise Up, Sing Out, a concert for the First Amendment. It featured performances or appearances by people like Bette Midler, Joy Reid, Jane Fonda. Fonda's advocacy group, the Committee for the First Amendment, was behind this event. A couple of the performances, it didn't really go well. In fact, it was pretty awful for good old Miss Bette and the crew.
Oh, you fascists bound to lose. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. Hey there, all you fascists. Let me put you straight. When you come for the rest of us, we'll fight you at the gate and you will lose. You fascists bound to lose.
Okay. Yeah. And this one's even worse. You ready? In case you're wondering what the Dems were doing, they're counter-programming to the UFC is like 40 people singing really badly to a really bad song. Sorry, prepare your ears.
No one is getting left behind this time. No one is getting left behind. Not this time. No one is getting left behind this time. How do we get there? Together or never get there at all.
I'm sorry. No, really, I'm sorry that you had to listen to that. Oh my God. World-class fighting entertainment versus whatever the hell that was. Pretty sad when entertainers, apparently singers, can't sing. No, Marilyn, I'm not going to be kinder. I mean, to you guys, the audience, yes, I'm going to try and be kinder by playing less of that bullcrap. But be kinder to these morons? Not going to happen. If Trump is such a fascist and his admin is censoring and attacking the First Amendment, then how are y'all able to hold this little event of yours and sing badly? Together or never get there at all. I'm thinking it's the latter. I meant us. Thank you. Okay, Marilyn. There was ranting from various speakers like Joy Reid. She talks about censorship, but everything she cites was businesses deciding to dump people they either no longer wanted or who were hurting their bottom line, not censorship. Listen to this actual numbskull.
Pelly fired from CBS by the clack of far-right ideologues who bought it and handed it over to a zealot named Bari Weiss, who may soon... She earned those boos. She may soon also control CNN. Jim Acosta out at CNN. Karen Attiah fired from the Washington Post, and me more than a year ago. All of us shown the door for just doing our jobs.
No, that's not actually Little Joy why you were shown the door. Numbers down, expenses up. Goodbye. You couldn't even get most people to know that you had anything going on. Liberal lefty Democrat morons. So much for history. For sure, it didn't trump the huge audience for the UFC Freedom 250 event. That's for damn sure. It turns out, weirdly enough, that people are more interested in real entertainment and real patriotism rather than just a bunch of whining little hypocritical podies and your bullshit, which everyone else is thoroughly tired of. Did you even know that event would have happened if I hadn't just told you about it? Probably not. Nobody would have. Hey, this is a weird one. If you, like me, put on your tinfoil hat when it comes to AI, and again, don't get me wrong, I use AI. I absolutely do. It's fantastic. I just think that we could head to a place where it gets very bad. Well, this article is labeled, "Why Did the Smartest AI in the World Just Go Dark?" Two of the most powerful large language models in the world just got yanked from service. Starting with a national security directive from the U.S. government during the Friday night news dump. The U.S. government cited national security authorities. They'd issued an export control directive to suspend all access to Fable 5 and Mythos 5, or Mythos 5, by any foreign national, whether inside or outside the U.S., including foreign nationals' Anthropic employees. The net effect of that order is that we must abruptly disable Fable 5 and Mythos 5 for all our customers to ensure compliance. Wow. The admin failed to give any specific details. They didn't get into the ground in the dirt about this. Anthropic says it believes the government became aware of a method of jailbreaking Fable 5's, potentially unleashing the AI from its built-in guardrails against using it in developing cyber exploits and deadly chemical synthesis, other sensitive topics. It is a big deal, folks. It is a big deal. These latest versions of Claude, Anthropic Enterprise, government-centric LLM. Fable is the safe version available to you and I, to the public. You might think that Mythos has the weapons-grade version, which is exactly what it is. What separates Fable from Mythos are the guardrails that, as Anthropic said, are supposed to greatly reduce the likelihood that Fable gets misused to create tasks related to cybersecurity, among many others. To date, the government has only given us some verbal evidence of a potential narrow, non-universal jailbreak, which essentially consists of asking the model to read a specific code base and fix any software flaws it finds. Company says our understanding is that one potential jailbreak was shared with the government. The bottom line, Anthropic shut them both down. No more access. We got a problem in there, folks, and we need to keep an eye on it, or we are going to get big time. Big time. All right. I love this. All right, we're going to do one more and then we're going to let you go. If you want a dog, you're going to want a dog like this. Now, this is a Belgian Malinois. I'm pronouncing it the French way, but it may be Malinois. But anyway, they essentially are the Ferraris of the world. They are so freaking unbelievably smart. I will tell you, and I'll admit, I'm a little biased. The Shiba Inu is kind of like the B version of a Belgian Malinois. Because the Shiba Inu, which I have, our little girl Miko, she's doing great, by the way. Thank you for asking. But they are smart. The Shiba Inus are smart as hell. The downside is they're incredibly stubborn. They're very stubborn. They will do what they want when they want to. And there is no changing their mind, ever. Well, these are the A class of smart dogs. But good luck. If you're going to get one, be warned, you need enough patience to last you from here to the end of time to deal with these dogs. It takes a massive amount of time, and you basically need the dedication of like a full-time dog trainer to train up all these complex behaviors. They are crazy nuts, but they are smart as a whip. And once you actually get them to the level I'm going to show you in a moment, they treat training sessions like a trip to the amusement park. They love it. They're going to fight you at first, but once they get the hang of things, you can't stop them. Their work drive is so insane, they actually genuinely seem to be enjoying the absolute hell out of it. And let me give you an example. This is a Belgian Malinois. Beautiful, beautiful dog. But it is also a dog that can do this.
Bite me. Release. Bite me to death. Step back a bit. Milk. Slippers. Mickey Mouse. Umbrella. Ultraman. Umbrella. Mickey Mouse. Into the cage. On the table. Sit. Shy. Hands down. Down. Bow the head. Get up. At ease. Stand in the corner. Get down. Roll down. Jump on the table. Into the cage. Step on the basketball. On the cage. Get under the table. Put the football on the table. Okay, come here. Down. Back off. Sit. Shy. Hands down. Take a break. Cover your mouth. Roll over. Bite me.
Wow. Wow. That is amazing. Trust me, for those breed of dogs, that took years. They're smart as a whip, but you need a lot of patience. You can get to that point. They'll do it, but you better be ready for it. They are an incredibly devoted dog. They are loyal to the death, but they need a lot of patience, and that is how amazing they can be. All right. Thank you, folks. Please follow, subscribe, show up in one of our sponsors there, and make a purchase. If you'd like to directly donate to the show to help keep the lights on, every penny you donate goes right into keeping this show running and on the air. That is our PayPal link at the top of the description. You just pull that menu down, you'll see it there, and you can make a donation directly to the show. We really appreciate that. We really do. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and I will be back tomorrow with the Jay Sheldon Show.